Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live, and things are quite alive in Florida. Once again, uh, Florida is getting ready for a big hurricane, and this one might be all Florida. Might be. We're not sure, but you never know with a hurricane, right? But right now, the hurricane known as Hurricane Milton is I guess right above Mexico, right above the southern shore of Mexico, and heading out to the Gulf, where it is going to be. It'll be over the Gulf. It'll be over the Gulf for I would say 2 days, and then on the 10th, it will be hitting Florida. Exactly what time? Not yet. Not yet known. We don't know when it is hitting. When it is hitting the Florida, but when it does, it'll be right in the middle of the west coast of Florida. I would say a little below Tampa. Probably not. The eye of it will probably be a little below Tampa, and that should be sometime midday Wednesday. Yeah, midday Wednesday, late Wednesday. So, as I said, right now it's Mexico, and we'll show it to you in this black map here. Uh, you can see it right now. It's right now. It's about right there. Okay, Merida, Mexico. It's a category. I think it's a category 5 already, Ted.
Yep.
It's a 4 or a 5.
That's right.
Which is not good news because it's going to be over the Gulf for a while, right? It's going to. It just sort of touched the tip of Mexico, not quite really over Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's going to be over the Gulf on Tuesday, the 8th. By the 9th in the morning, it'll just be halfway there. And then all of the 9th, it'll be traveling over the, headed for right there. It'll be traveling over the Gulf of Mexico, and it'll hit at that little red point right here. And that is approximately south of Tampa. And then it is going to head straight across the central part of Florida. Its far reaches will take it down to looks to me like above well, maybe on the East Coast. That's probably about Port St. Lucie over here. And up here you see Jacksonville. So it'll on the 10th, it'll be crossing Florida for 1 day. The center of it being here. There's Miami right there. If you want to know where Miami is, and in that area is also Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, Palm Beach, Jupiter. You got to get up to the Port St. Lucie area before you start hitting the outer reaches of the hurricane. Over land, it should slow down. And here's the good news, if there's any. Bad news is it's supposed to hit Florida as a category 4 or 5, according to the governor. And he's declared emergency warnings for all of those counties going up to Jacksonville. The last one hit in here. and went that way up toward North Carolina. But this one is going out to sea, which, as I said, is the good news. And it'll be hitting Florida for one day. There'll be, I'm sure, beforehand, there'll be some damage, and afterwards there'll be some, but the major part of it will be all day on the 10th. Evacuations in the center of it. I don't know how far the evacuations are going. So far, there are no evacuations warnings for what we would traditionally call the southern part of Florida. It does look like it's going to hit Orlando, which is about right there. So we'll keep you posted. Again, Governor DeSantis seems right on top of it. President seems to be asleep. And let's talk a little about the handling of the current hurricane, where we still don't know how many people have died, and we're piling up more and more fatalities, so that now it's the second worst hurricane in recent memory, Katrina being the worst in terms of the number of fatalities. Now, this is a hurricane that the president sat out on the beach, and cackling Kamala was somewhere. We don't know where, but none of them were on television during the relevant periods of the storm, which would have been from the Thursday that it hit Tallahassee through that weekend when it destroyed many parts of North Carolina. Those people now saying that FEMA was of no use to them, which is disgusting. We do know from Mayorkas that maybe we can find that, Ted, when Mayorkas says that there's no money left in FEMA once he gave out the $4 million. I would like you to compare, for example, the $4 million that he gave the people in North Carolina and for the hurricane to the $640 million that were given to the illegals this year, to the $8 billion that right at the same time, and before Biden went off to the beach on vacation, last thing he did was not send money off to help Americans, but to hand a big pile of $8 billion to the guy covering up all sorts of corruption in, including Biden's, in Ukraine. I mean, if he had just kept maybe 10, 20 million, 8 billion in Zelensky were whacking up, a lot of people in North Carolina might have lived or might be able to survive now. Here's the second biggest liar in Washington after Biden.
Tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. And it's not just hurricanes and wildfires, also extreme heat, which certainly some parts of the United States are already experiencing.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas sounding the alarm on FEMA funding right after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent.
Wow, Mayor, look at this figure. This is from Fox News. I guess we'll show it just so. Meanwhile, how much has gone to Ukraine?
8 billion, 200 billion altogether.
But I mean, enough for the people of North Carolina?
Zelensky came here, campaigned for the Democratic Party, interfered in our election, attacked J.D. Vance, did a campaign appearance with a Senate and House candidate in Pennsylvania, did a joint press conference with the Democratic candidate for president, and walked away with $8 billion with no plan to win the war, no prospect of winning the war, just another endless war with more Ukrainians and more Russians being killed. Now for, I don't know, moving one chess piece around. And he doesn't have money for the Americans. Well, I'm going to read you a couple of accounts here. Of course, we know that North Carolina, with a Democrat Governor Cooper, who is not likely to complain because I imagine his party is more important than his citizens. But I mean, they've really let North Carolina get destroyed. There's a small town in North Carolina that's been wiped away completely. It was almost totally destroyed by Hurricane Helene. This is written by Jack Morfett and Chris Nessie in the New York Post, and this is attributed to Chelsea Atkins, who's 38, who lives in Bat Cave, North Carolina, which doesn't exist anymore. FEMA called me and told me they wanted to inspect my house, then called me back to say they couldn't drive around the road closed sign. They weren't allowed. Local Chelsea Atkins, 38, told the Post. Chelsea says, quote, "You can drive it by car for sure. It's not that bad. You just have to drive around the road closed sign." I explained to them. They said they couldn't, she said, recounting the maddening exchange. Left to fend for themselves, Bat Cave residents banded together, opening the roads and starting the arduous work of cleanup and recovery. Residents said that they don't need a FEMA now, and at this point, they don't even want the disaster relief agency to come. While the sick and the elderly residents of Bat Cave, about 30 miles southwest of Asheville, were airlifted to safety a week ago, those left behind have seen virtually no sign of government agencies. Great, huh? That's great. Oh, and by the way, many citizens made it past the sign that said the road is closed. So FEMA is so delicate that it can't get through a road closed sign. The few remaining locals have scavenged building supplies to shore up homes teetering on the edge. Atkins, a health researcher, originally from Buffalo, New York, said she thought she was going to die when the storm hit. She and her husband, Andy, sought shelter Friday in a small white post office. It was wild. Atkins said FEMA called her to arrange an inspection of her house, but they never showed up because the road was closed. The very same road the New York Post traversed to come and interview them at about the same time. The road is treacherous but navigable. Amazing, huh? Pretty damn amazing, I must say.
Well,
Chimney Rock is just destroyed. It is forever changed. That's a mountainside, North Carolina. North Carolina, and they got no help from FEMA. There's one story after another of FEMA not able to help, part because it has no money left. It spent it all on the on the illegal aliens. Now, just exactly how that is appropriate, how that is part of the appropriation of FEMA, is completely crazy, and there's going to be a hearing about that. This seems to me to be an improper appropriation of money. Congress didn't appropriate that money to spend it on illegals. It appropriated to spend it on natural disasters. They're not a natural disaster. They're a Harris Biden created disaster. And Harris and Biden are not natural in any sense of the word.
well, wow, Mayor. So we see what real leadership looks like here in Florida under Governor DeSantis.
Yeah, it always comes out in emergencies, Ted. That's when you find out who is the leaders and who are the scum. And this is the scum. But they're scum in every regard. Sell out the country to China, take bribes. Yeah. horrible people.
Well,
Frame their opponents.
well, we have a very special guest when we're ready to start talking about, of course, the 1 year remembrance of those horrific attacks on October 7th. Do we want to take a quick break? Would you like to go right into this? We have our good friend on the line, Justine.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, and we'll talk about today's anniversary. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Justine Murray.
Justine.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Well, Mayor, we now have a very special guest. We haven't had her on it's been a while since we've had her on.
About 2 months, maybe.
Yeah. So she may have some updates for us, but of course, the reason we have her on today, we wish we're under better circumstances. Justine Murray, you're on with the mayor.
Hi, Justine. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a tough day because it's the anniversary of October 7th, but we're hanging in there.
Well, you know, it shocks me. It probably shouldn't that there were actual. You would think there'd be memorial services, and there have been some, and President is at one. But the protests today were in favor of a homicidal terrorist group that raped, murdered, acted like barbarians by American students. I mean, who taught them this?
Exactly. It's a fusion of Marxism and Islamism, and it's been taught to our students now, honestly, for decades. It started with Marxism, but we've officially gone full circle where our campuses, for a while, they become jihadi boot camps. But for the past year, since October 7th, since they've tested the water year after year on what they can get away with, they've realized they can get away with openly supporting the destruction of America, the destruction of Israel, the destruction of the West, donning Hezbollah and Hamas flags in our streets. And this is where we're at. And one has to wonder, God forbid if 9/11 happened today, would these students be cheering in the streets? And I think they would.
You know, I was saying before that on 9/11, that day and the day after, it was quite shocking that there were celebrations in New York, in New Jersey, other parts of America, and around the world. There were celebrations in the Islamic community, happy about the fact that these Americans were killed. But there weren't many, and they were shocking. People reacted against them. Now they're massive in number, and the people, they seem to take it as part of what goes on, that you actually demonstrate in favor of a terrorist group.
Right.
I mean, something really has gone wrong.
We're marching into our deaths. We had the media all these past 2 weeks. They've been praising the Hassan Nasrallah. He was the leader of Hezbollah, whom Israel killed. They've been praising all these dead terrorists. It's been another austere religious scholar moment. And then we remember that some members of the media actually partook in October 7th, including members of the United Nations, which we house in New York. And America is the greatest donor of the UN using our taxpayer money. It's really scary to think that our cultural overlords, our leaders, the Biden administration, they are actually in support of the enemy. We have a candidate right now for vice president who spent $100,000 of taxpayer money on a chapter that supports the American Muslim Brotherhood, which isn't very American, because they supported October 7th. They cheered it on. They're actually considered a terrorist organization in some other countries. And it is so scary when our own country turns against each other, when we're trying to take ourselves down from within.
Yeah, and that is the way it's always been predicted we would fall from our founding fathers through many of the books that were written in the 50s and 60s about communism, that it wouldn't be communism that
connection?
destroyed us from outside. They would do it from inside.
Shoot. Did the connection? Did something happen with the
Well,
connection?
we got you on, Justine.
Sorry.
We had you.
Oh,
Well, I think that was good. I mean, Justine is always a professional, and she really is terrific. And of course, she's quite an expert on Israel and what goes on there. And I think you saw some pictures of President Trump this morning. Who that's the tomb of Rabbi Schneerson, who is one of the most beloved rabbis in the Jewish faith of recent times. He was the lead rabbi of the Orthodox community, but beyond the Orthodox
I'm not sure
community,
what
he
happened
was.
with the connection.
Oh, there you are. We were looking at it. We were looking at video of President Trump at the tomb of Rabbi Schneerson, and this morning, and I think that was quite an appropriate thing to do. And I think this evening he's gone to a memorial service in Miami. I don't see Harris or Biden or doing anything like that. They're probably sending money to Hamas.
That's right. So, well, why don't we wrap up with Justine here? Justine, thank you for joining us. We know it's quite a somber day.
Yeah, and God bless you, Justine. You do such good work.
God bless you guys. I miss being in this studio with you guys.
Seeing you too. But we'll catch up.
We will. We will. It's
God bless you.
same to you.
Definitely wanted to talk to you today because I know how much this hurts you and how much it hurts all, not Jewish people and all of us who have a regard for human life, for decency, for democracy, for Western civilization, and respect what Bibi Netanyahu is having to do under very, very difficult, very, very difficult circumstances. I think you saw some of that video, Ted, of how they treated the women. You might want to show that these animals. I mean, so when Trump calls them animals, please, I mean, that's mild. These people are they're true barbarians. Which one shall we show?
Yeah, they're awful. Some of these. So you keep talking, and I'll play.
Well, this is what this is basically what happened on the 7th. There is so much footage of this, just don't want to watch. Look at those young ladies. Look at that. Look at that. Whole face is ripped apart.
So hard to watch. So it's playing while you can still talk.
Yeah, I do. I see the young ladies, and these are the people that would tell that video from the day of October 7 a year ago, and these are the women who were taken hostage. They still have at least 100 hostages. We don't know how many are alive, and we don't know what they've done to them. Some of the stories these hostages have told coming back are horrible. some of the videos are horrible. Dragging bodies in the street. Uh, this is exactly why they were designated a terrorist group. Why you would protest in favor of them? Why you would want them to become an independent state? What you're watching is a reflection of who they are. They're taught from little children to do that. And it gets 85% support among Palestinians. So we can't do this. It's just a small part of the Palestinians. It's the vast, overwhelming majority of Palestinians. Do we have the one where they kill the girl, who knows what they did to her before, and then they ride her body through the street, and all the Palestinians, not just Hamas, are cheering? Do we have that one?
Which one?
The one in which they take the girl, not that girl, but they take the girl and they put her in a truck.
The one from earlier today?
Yeah, and they drive her through the streets. And just to show the big support that they have, the Palestinians, the ones who were taught to kill us at 2, are cheering in the streets,
Yeah.
cheering the barbarians, which means that they are certainly supporters. Here you go. Here's the young lady who was killed. We're not showing the whole thing. We're showing just a part of it. How are they going to drive? Look at that. They're going to drive it through the streets. They're going to drive that young woman through the streets. They're not only, that's not just those people are animals, it's all the people in the street. Harris wants to bring them to the U.S. as refugees. That should be great. They'll just join. Maybe they'll join with Tronderagua, or maybe Tronderagua they'll all kill each other or something. I mean, if they don't watch out, they're going to have some kind of massive gang war in Chicago. Oh my God. That's what has to be remembered today, that this was the single biggest killing of Jewish people since the Holocaust, for the reason that they are Jewish. It's in order to wipe out the only democracy in the Middle East. It's in order to wipe out the only real ally of the United States in the Middle East, which is why China and Russia and all those people who want us to save Ukraine. I mean, a big difference between Ukraine and Israel has been an ally of the United States from the day it started. Israel is an established government. Until a few years ago, until the Democrats wanted us to forget how much stealing they do in Ukraine, Ukraine was known as the second most corrupt government in the world. And nothing different has been done about it since Zelensky came in, who was put in by one of the biggest and most corrupt people in Ukraine. And hasn't done a single damn thing to change it. They are the animals. So, question now is, what's Israel going to do? And there's only one way you're going to have peace in the Middle East. One way. You have to eliminate the Islamic Republic of Iran. I didn't say Iran. I said the Islamic Republic of Iran, otherwise known as the Reign of Terror. From the day it took over and built in this imperative that there be a Islamic empire in the Middle East, and began building it and taking control of places like Iraq, Syria, creating a great relationship with Turkey, taking control of the Houthis, who Biden took off the terrorist list. Biden and Harris took them off the terrorist list. I mean, you cannot fight these people if you can't say Islamic terrorist. We'll be back where we were with Obama, where ISIS reestablished itself after he called them the JV, and then we had to have Trump wipe them out. And now they're back again because Biden gave them billions in arms. but maybe Trump can get rid of them once and for all. Doesn't help to appease these people, doesn't help to appease Iran. The idea that they're going to be nuclear is insane. It is playing with the future existence of the world. And this is a great opportunity. I heard someone today, someone I respect actually, say, well, if they bombed Iran, they could set them back, but they wouldn't end. So why wouldn't you set them back? Why wouldn't you set back their nuclear program? Every time you set it back, you make it really difficult for them to catch up again. Like it costs money. They don't have a lot of money. Even with the money that he pumps in there, they're on the edge all the time, and we may have a president coming in that squeezes them again. A president that squeezes them again will make it impossible for them to support all of those terrorist groups and develop their nuclear program, particularly if you impose some real setbacks on that program. So instead of being ready to be nuclear now, we put it off for 2 or 3 years, and who knows what we can do in 2 or 3 years. Might be able to overthrow them. We were pretty close to that before Biden started feeding them billions. So I am a very, very big proponent of taking out every nuclear facility they can. And if they can't take out all of them, I don't care, as long as they set them back. Like they did when they killed all the scientists. They had to go find new scientists. That set them back. They cried about that for a long time. And they were really scared when all the pages went off and cell phones. And the Ayatollah went in hiding. I guess he doesn't really count on the 72 virgins, huh? And with all these Islamic extremists getting killed, they got to be running out of them. The numbers just don't work anymore. Right? Let's face it. I mean, got to be realistic. So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. Let me just show you a little bit of what Israel is facing with my map, because it is now very much a three-front war. One is, today or yesterday, I guess, the United States hit the Houthis finally. And this is after the Israelis delivered quite a blow to them. But they went down to Yemen and they did some real damage to them in order to cut down their ability to interfere with shipping in the Red Sea, and also to attack Iran as proxies to attack Israel as proxies for Iran. So that's one front, but that's not a continuous battle for them. They're essentially fighting in three parts of Israel. Yesterday, although they're fighting up in the north, they conducted a pretty extensive attack in the northern part of Gaza, which would be right here. And of course, that's where October 7 took place, in that part of Israel. They also have a certain amount of fighting terrorism, whatever you want to call it, in this area, which is the West Bank, which is disputed territory, but inhabited by the Palestinians. Uh, Gaza is Hamas. The West Bank is Fatah. The difference between them is Hamas acknowledges the fact that it's a terrorist group. Fatah is a retired terrorist group that now act like mafia gangsters and steal every buck that comes into um, the Palestine that isn't stolen by the UN. Oh, and the UN is made up of, they hire only Palestinians. So, the money goes to build tunnels, not to save people, or to go build great houses in the south of France or in Dubai or in Qatar or wherever. The new action now, that is engulfing Israel is up here in the northern part, and that's where Israel invaded. That's primarily the area that Iran attacked, although they did go as far down as Tel Aviv, right there. Again, it didn't strike anything, but it was quite a bold thing to do, to go at their main financial center. So we'll have to see what Israel does in return, which is going to happen. And I think it's going to happen without any regard to what our pathetic Harris-Biden regime wants, because what they want is for Iran to win. That's what they've been doing. I mean, imagine saying, "Don't hit the nuclear facilities." Biden said that. Why would you want the Ayatollah to become nuclear? Why? Why wouldn't this be a perfect opportunity to set them back? Wouldn't you achieve something if you set them back 2 or 3 years? Gives you time. Gives you time if you want to negotiate, if you're stupid like he is, or if you want to think of ways of taking the whole thing out. So Trump, as you see, celebrated today quite appropriately. Remembered, I should say, by going to Rabbi Schneerson's grave site, and then the ceremony tonight in Miami. He is a true friend of Israel. Let's see what kind of friend Harris is of Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, Bibi is fighting not only for his life, he's fighting for the life of his country. This is the country that probably has supported us the most of any country in the world. I mean, they've done things for
Netanyahu.
I think, with all due respect, the better question.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
I'm surprised she didn't say that she comes from the middle class. This is the first answer that she's given where it didn't start with, I come from the middle class and my mother. But she won't say that Bibi is a close ally of the United States. He just is the democratically elected leader of our ally that's surrounded by countries that want to destroy it. You'd think you'd be able to give him a little support, shithead. What a pathetic group of people. Biden is off at the beach. She's off campaigning while people in North Carolina and Florida and South Carolina and I guess up to Tennessee and Kentucky are dying, right? Now we have another one coming, right? Going to go right through the center of Florida. But in the case of DeSantis and Florida's uh, very well regarded emergency effort, all FEMA would do is get people killed, particularly under these incompetents. And they don't have any money. They spent it all inappropriately, illegally on the illegal aliens, 640 million, and they gave 8 billion to the son of a crook. Why did I say son of a crook? Because he basically was made by Kolomoisky, who was meaning Zelensky, was made by Kolomoisky, who was the biggest money launderer in Ukraine. And he's covering up for all of the bribes that all those guys took, including the former president. Took massive amounts of money. In fact, if he got some of that money back, he'd be able to pay for his own war. So there was quite a moving ceremony very unusual ceremony on Saturday. Whoever saw a president or presidential candidate go back to the scene of his almost being assassinated. What guts! Well, why don't we take a look? Why don't we take a look at some of that, because some very interesting things emerged from that. Maybe we start with this is this Sally?
Yep.
So Sally Sherry is the paramedic who took care of President Trump, or one of them that took care of Trump when he was in the hospital, and therefore got a bird's eye view of what he's like, because this dispute. Let's listen to her. Let's, in her own words, describe what President Trump is like under pressure.
His wife, his children, and his grandchildren. He let them know that he was safe and that he was being taken care of. I heard his daughter say, "Only by the grace of God, you are here." The man that we all see on TV with the strong personality, who sometimes doesn't mince for words, or who is seen as a wealthy, powerful businessman, was not the man that I stood beside that evening. What I saw was a man that, in the aftermath of one of the most terrifying experiences of his life, showed resiliency. He showed strength and courage. He showed that his family was at the forefront. He was a husband, a father, and a grandfather. He was compassionate and grateful. He was kind and humble. Several times I stood and stared at him with tears rolling down my cheeks. He was someone's dad. He's a human just like you and me. I held the hand of that man who sends out the mean tweets, and I thanked him for loving our country and fighting for our freedoms. He assured me that he is doing everything he can to save our country, and I believe this to be true now more than ever. So as I circle back and wrap this up, I talk about healthcare and EMS being my calling. When I look back to the date of July 13th, I see our first responders and our soon-to-be 47th president who are doing just that, answering their calling. Events of this magnitude present unique challenges, yet the first responders and President Trump handled them with skill, grace, and determination, reminding us of the invaluable role that they both play. How fortunate are we to have such devoted, amazing people surrounding us and serving our country and our communities. To President Trump and to all the first responders, please know that your dedication and services are appreciated far beyond words. We hold you to the highest regards. Thank you once again for your exemplary work during the rally and every day as you all continue to protect and serve us. Thank you for this opportunity to share my experience.
Isn't that beautiful? Well, that's the Donald Trump that they try to keep. That
As
they
we
try
all
to keep
rely
from
on
us,
our
that they try to keep from us with the demonization of him, and words like eliminate him, and which had to play some role in these people getting all worked up to kill him, and it also is beyond, I guess, anything rational to think that these were coincidences, or that the Secret Service could do so many things wrong in one situation. So shall we do a little B-roll of the stage this weekend that looked eerily like the one on which he was shot, which is amazing. Uh, Anybody leave early?
Look at that crowd.
Yeah, you think she gets a crowd like that?
Please. Look at that. I wish there was a way to do it full screen. Maybe I can find another.
I mean, I think people get the idea that there were a few people there.
Look at that.
Because he was leading in Pennsylvania by 800,000 votes before they stopped the counting, threw people out, and counted and let Republicans see 900,000 ballots. Never got to see those ballots, even to this day. He's kind of popular in Pennsylvania. What do you say, Ted?
Yeah.
Remember in the last election, he drew out more people than the size of the town? I think it was a town of about 40,000. He got 50,000 people to come to the town. That was about 4 days
That was
before
South
the
Carolina, right?
No, it was in Pennsylvania. My Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're talking about
2020.
okay, yeah.
No, I consider it my Pennsylvania because I pushed very hard for him to campaign at the end in Pennsylvania because I just had a feeling he could win it.
In 2020.
Yeah. I just think the issues line up really, really well. He's a Pennsylvania candidate.
I agree. And Michigan, too.
Well, you would know that better than I do.
I mean, as a Republican, right?
Now, I also have to say they were the two most difficult states that I had to deal with in terms of corruption.
You don't have to. Detroit, Michigan, baby.
I mean, really, it's not right. Georgia was pretty damn bad, too.
And what about Maricopa County out in Arizona?
Yeah.
And I know you didn't do much in Clark County, but I've always had a thing about Clark County.
Clark County was never investigated because there was a Democrat legislature, and there'd been no point. No matter what we developed, they would have just said we were lying. So let's take a look at the president. Well, first, Elon Musk. People don't get to see Elon Musk very often. So and he's quite a hero, preserving our First Amendment through X, which we're on right now. So we might as well put the boss on, huh?
The way he is the boss, right?
Yeah.
They want to. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. You got 14 states now that don't require voter ID. California, where I used to live, is just passed a law banning voter ID for voting. The other side wants to take away your freedom of speech. They want to take away your right to bear arms.
They want to make it illegal to ask for ID. That would be like making it illegal to ask for ID when you want to cash a check, or to ask for ID when you want to go on an airplane, or what the hell is that all about? Because you don't need ID to come in the country. That's why all the criminals come in. Just so they'll get vote. I don't know. I don't know. So shall we now listen to Trump?
We should probably get a little bit of the man of the hour here. President.
Yes, let's do that.
To people that were this guy would do anything. He was brave, right? Brave guy like you. And he was also a protector who put his life on the line for others, and he loved doing it. And when the sound of gunshots pierced the air on that July evening, Corey leapt into the fire one more time In his last seconds of this earth, he threw himself on the top of his wife and daughters. He didn't want them hurt. He threw himself. He said he knew what was happening. He didn't want them hurt. And he was hit hard. He was hit hard. And he gave his life to shield their lives. Every father and husband in America hopes that if the time came, we would have what Corey had. Tremendous courage, tremendous guts, and he wanted to protect his family, and he did protect his family. At this time, it is 6:11, 12 weeks to the minute that the shooting began. I would like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence.
That has to help the family. I've been through, as you know, many of these situations, and it does help when there's an explanation of heroism for the loss of your loved one. It uplifts them to a very special place. And I guess, the president really reflected something very human there. And that is the doubt that we all have whether we'd be able to do that, right? And then the respect that we have for someone who does. I mean, I almost had a tear in my eye when I thought of that. But it's what I respect. I guess I respect bravery and courage more than anything else in the face of death or physical injury or even courage in terms of standing up for your principles. And I probably have the most disdain for people who are cowards. I think one of the reasons that you can be courageous, that you'd be embarrassed of yourself if you weren't. You wouldn't want to live with yourself. I remember people asking me why were you able to get through September 11 and not be afraid? Or I said, I don't know if I was afraid or not. I just wasn't going to give in to it. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I wouldn't be able to look in the mirror. Or if I got these bastard Democrats to get to say what they want me to say, which is not true. You ask me, was the election fixed? Yeah, you're damn right it was. When they fix the election, they try to fix everything else to try to destroy them. The people who can cover up the hard drive are going to fix an election. People who can pay $1 million to come up with a phony story of Russian collusion and try to frame a man with it can fix an election. And by the way, Democrats have been fixing elections for over a century. They do that even easier than framing somebody, or maybe even organizing to get somebody killed. I mean, that's more unusual. Well, the country is going through a disaster with these criminal aliens that are coming in. And it's finally, there's an expression about something hitting the fan. I'm not going to say it because it's disgusting. But, this was covered up for quite some time, up until about the, I think Riley Lakin was the rape murder, where they described the guy as a man from Athens. And then it turned out the man from Athens really came from Venezuela. And since then, I can't say the floodgates have opened, because you're not going to find this in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the other useless communist news sources. We have NBC, CBS, ABC. Well, you saw what CBS was worth during the debate, right? Worth nothing. But these things are getting out now. So the number of my alien crimes is overwhelming. A couple of weeks ago, I'd have to go back. This is about 4 weeks old. But in one part of New York, I think Queens, 60% of the crime is done by illegal migrants. Wow. And a lot of it driven in New York by the Tron de Aragua group, which is all over the place. So one of the things that came out a few weeks ago, right before Springfield, was the town in Denver, right outside of Denver, known as Aurora, in Governor Feliz Navidad state. And originally they said they were being
Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
like walls, complete jackass, invites all the illegals to come there, gives them money, and they're destroying Denver, which per capita has more illegals than New York. But they have so many illegals that they have now spilled over into Aurora, which is a suburban county right near Denver, and several other suburban counties that are now suing Denver, and they're suing the governor for his sanctuary policies. So, I mean, he has deliberately created these problems. But originally, when the problems of Aurora came out, the mayor said yes, and the police kind of denied it, and the governor denied it. And now it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, the number of crimes is through the roof. They have taken over apartment buildings, which is part of their modus operandi. They take over apartment complexes so they can operate out of them. And it isn't just Aurora. There's a whole bunch of counties now in Denver where they do that, thanks to Feliz Navidad inviting them there. And they are very, very active in New York and in California and in various parts of Texas. So yesterday, the police raided a vacant San Antonio apartment complex that had fallen under the control. They control the complex of Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua is a Venezuelan prison gang. And out of there, they were doing. There were 300 units, vacant units. They took over Palazzo Apartments on the north side of the city of San Antonio, and they were dealing narcotics. They were dealing with young women, making young women available. They were forcing people out by making threats on them, forcing them out of their apartments. You remember we had the video in Aurora that broke the whole thing, and then eventually it went to Springfield too, of these people breaking down. They were like torturing this woman, and they were breaking down the doors, and everybody denied. Oh my goodness, what he's doing! So we'll get to Springfield in a minute before we close this issue. But so they arrested 20 people. 4 have already been confirmed as major leaders of Tren de Aragua, and one of them is the like the boss, called the enforcer. And oh my goodness. Yeah, well, they've also had numerous arrests for running a prostitution ring, selling cocaine. Basically, these Texas towns, of course, have been devastated by these illegal migrants. You might remember that back in March, there were 100 Tren de Aragua members who stormed the border in El Paso. And one of their major things is to lure women into sex trafficking, and they bring women across the border for that purpose. So, so that great champion of women, as border czar, has presided over the biggest mass influx of women for the purpose of sex trafficking in the history of this country. And there's no country in the world that has as big a human trafficking situation as America now under Harris. And that's, that she can take care of your reproductive rights, but she's going to get you raped along the way. So you'll have all the reproductive rights you want, but pretty good chance your daughter might get sold into slavery. But you can, abort a baby in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month. In Minnesota, you can even get a little grace period afterwards. If the baby survives the abortion, you don't have to give it life-saving care. You can just make it comfortable. So for all the ones they made comfortable died. Everything I just said is true, despite the fact that CBS lied about it in their fact checking. It's the law. He passed it. The communist who runs the country, the state of Minnesota, the guy who watched Minneapolis burn, the guy who's gone to China 30 times, the guy who had his honeymoon in China, the guy who had his wedding on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square, the guy who tells you that China's a really wonderful place, the guy that tells you that one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. What else does he have to tell? What does he got to do? Paint a red thing on his head and say, I'm a Chinese communist? I mean, what does a guy do? If he takes 31 million from Red China, you figure he's a traitor, right? Yeah, but we made him president. And then he gave up Bagram Air Base. The Chinese are running it now, so they can kill us. There's a great article by Mary Anastasia O'Grady in the Wall Street Journal, who probably knows more about South America than anybody, who says, so Cuba has always been an enormously complex situation because there are a lot of true people who are refugees or asylees, whichever way you want to describe it, fleeing communism. But there also are a lot of people that have gamed the system. And of course, Castro is the one who invented this situation that Maduro now follows, which is to clean out his prisons and his jails and his insane asylums and his street criminals. And because there were a lot of people legitimately wanting to come to the U.S., that the U.S. legitimately wanted to absorb because they were fleeing communism, turned out to be some of our best citizens. He mixed them in with roughly the numbers with the Mariel Boatlift, which they think of as being all criminals because of the Pacino movie Scarface. Most of them weren't criminals. Most of them were people legitimately fleeing communism. When I say most, about 130,000 people, 100,000 of which were people reuniting with their families, probably some of whom families had been killed by Castro. About 25,000 or 30,000 were some of were criminals that would defy description. I know that because I had to deal with them in the Atlanta penitentiary and find places for them and find a way to stop it. And I don't know until we started dealing with the Islamic terrorists that I had ever seen worse criminals than this. I mean, he emptied out his institutions for the criminally insane, not just criminals, which is what Maduro is doing. And when Trump says it, they look at him like, this is a communist. This is the communist book, right? So Mary is warning us that not all of the Cubans coming over are nice people. That a lot of them are communist that are part of the regime who've killed people. And she gives a couple of examples of them. And we've had about 800,000 from Venezuela under that we know of under Harris and Biden, but we've had 1.5 million from Cuba. And Cuba population, is about 11.5 million. That's a lot of Cuba. It's in a it's in a full-fledged meltdown. And the State Department has pointed out that Cuba specializes in human trafficking, and is one of the leaders in human trafficking. Raul Castro is still around. He's 93. Jeez. There's at least 100 Cubans that are identified in the United States who have committed serious human rights crimes. One of them is Manuel Menendez Castellano. Luis Raul Gonzalez Pardo Rodriguez. He is one of the pilots who shot down the 4 Americans that were killed in 1996. I was mayor at the time, and I joined a protest at the Cuban consulate for them and named the street in front of the consulate Brothers to the Rescue, to stick it up their ass, because I hate communists. And I hate Cuban communists, and I hate Castro. People remember me for throwing Arafat out of the UN concert. I wouldn't allow Castro to come. He actually didn't defy me. He didn't come. Arafat did, and I threw him out. I did accommodate him, and I said he could have a camel if he wanted it. A little fat bastard could walk too. I was annoyed that he had that thing around his head and was going to listen to a concert. What kind of civilized human being does that? Now, what I was really annoyed about is I had investigated him. I had a very, very detailed warrant for his arrest for killing 27 of my fellow citizens. Unlike Clinton, I don't like to hang around with people who kill my fellow citizens. I don't suck up to them. I figure they're going to double cross me anyway, which is exactly what happened. But the New York Times never wrote, after castigating me for throwing him out, that I turned out to be right. Clinton turned out to be dead wrong, and just extended the inability to get peace in the Middle East that much longer. Because as long as you talk about a 2-state solution, you are not going to get peace. Not if Palestine isn't willing to recognize, and first of all, recognize the existence of the state of Israel as a Jewish state, which is why it was put there. But number 2, show us some period of time when they're not terribly corrupt and viciously terroristic, like we just saw. That's the Palestinians cheering for the young woman who had been beaten and killed, and they're dragging her through the streets. That's Palestine. That's why they won't let them in Jordan, and that's why they won't let them in Egypt. And that's why Harris wants to bring them to the United States. You go tell me why. There was a very good article raising the question, why do the young vote left? I'm going to make it real simple. Andy Kessler raised this question. Tampon Tim. Tampon Tim is why they vote left. I don't mean just him. I mean the thousands and hundreds of thousands of Tampon Tims.
I know where you're going with
the ones who get brainwashed. The ones who say socialism, one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. China's really a beautiful place. We should really consider socialism as an alternative. Oh yeah. Or I'm gonna go to China for my honeymoon, and China's really a wonderful place. Let's ignore the fact that they have killed 100 million of their own people. Now, are they brainwashed and they don't know what they're doing, or are they actual operatives of the Chinese government? I don't know, but it comes out the same way. So Tampon Tim and Hunter Biden would be very similar. Hunter Biden was paid for in order to be a proponent of the red Chinese government, and to get to his old man. Well, he got an airbase out of him. He got him to lay off China as the sole creator of the COVID virus and the spreader of it. he's gotten them to lay off China in terms of trying to challenge its militaristic goals by how about building up our Navy so we can be the biggest Navy in the world again? Under Biden, they've passed us. I tell you, they took this guy Emhoff, right, and they tried to. I think this is why it all fell apart. They tried to get ridiculous with this. He's the personification of the new masculinity. I mean, the guy looks like a doofus and sounds like one. This is not exactly John Wayne. But all of a sudden, it now turns out that he sure as hell isn't the personification of what they regard, I don't think. I mean, I don't think they think someone who slaps his girlfriend or someone who knocks up his daughter's nanny is personification of masculinity. And things that never came out were hidden and covered up when Cackling Kamala became our vice president. I mean, how did we end up with Cackling Kamala? Because Joe Biden said, "I'm going to pick for my vice president. I'm gonna limit my choice. I'm gonna limit my choice, and it's gonna be a woman, and it's gonna be a black woman." That gets it down to about 10% of the population. The other 90% don't even get considered in the talent search. Isn't that a racist way to do it, Ted?
I mean,
Why?
obviously.
Isn't racism
The whole point.
when you use race as the basis and substitute for merit? One way or the other? You deny someone a position on merit because of race, or you give someone a position on merit who isn't qualified for it. She wasn't qualified to be vice president. Remember when Lester Holt asked her if she's ever gone to the border, and she very arrogantly said, "I've never been to Europe. I've never been to Europe," and she wanted to be, and she was vice president. You got one guy that's never been right about foreign policy, according to Gates, right? Trump, Biden. Then you got another one that doesn't even know where Europe is. That's why she said stupid things like Russia's a big country right next to Ukraine, which is a small country, trying to explain the reason for the war. I mean, we could every day we could pick out a stupid thing. Now, I have to say I'm very upset because the Yankees are losing 4-1 to Kansas City at home in the middle of the fourth inning. I don't like that.
I saw that.
But
Didn't want to say anything.
I'm gonna, when I get off, I'll be cheering for them, and maybe that'll bring them in. I mean, they do.
Tigers won today.
They do have the. Pardon me.
Tigers won today.
Yeah, so
We
they're
won a
1-1.
Tigers Yankees.
Oh, this would make the
ALCS.
Yankees 1-1 if they lose this, but then they'd lose home. No, they wouldn't. Kansas City would have to win 2 in Kansas City. Yeah, no, Kansas City could win just 2 in Kansas City and win it.
And win it. They lose
Yeah.
home field advantage.
So they would, yeah. So they have to win this game. This is ridiculous. They're not beating the Royals. Royals have good pitching, though. The Royals definitely have good pitching.
Tigers and Indians have good pitching. That game was scoreless in the 9th today, Mayor.
Yeah. Well, we're in the bottom of the 5th.
But that look at the mayor's dedication to his audience. I mean, you got a Yankee playoff game going on, but he wants to make sure he's here with all of
Right, but we're
you.
gonna be getting off very shortly. Looks like they need me.
Might be that time.
It looks like they need me.
But 2 years ago, those of you that have been with us from the beginning.
Yeah, this is the way we started. This is the way we
We'll
started.
have to do one of these games, Mayor.
We will.
Maybe next weekend.
Yeah, we'll do one.
Maybe this week. Maybe the next
Yeah.
game. Maybe we do game 3. We'll end at 9.
And do game 3.
And
Do the rest of
game
game.
3.
Okay. All right.
We got to get some hats and polos or a jersey or something.
So tomorrow we're going to And about 68 million people are in need of humanitarian aid. And Namibia is killing a total of 700 hippos, elephants, zebras, and other animals to feed its hungry population. Would take out about 200 elephants. So I don't know if, and this is apparently, I don't know how many there are in Namibia, but in Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, there are 228,000 elephants. So it isn't a big 200 elephants out of 228,000 is very, very small. And I've never thought of elephants as I guess we're sort of sheltered, but I never thought of elephants as being used as food. Did you, Ted? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess when you're in trouble, right? Right.
Right.
And there's the race, by the way, in the race in Pennsylvania. Trump latest poll. I just saw it going by. He opened up even more of a lead, and it's helping. It's helping McCormick, who now is just a teeny bit behind Casey, who had like about a 6 or 7 point lead. And apparently that's the number one race that the Republicans are putting money into. I don't know why that choice was made, that's the number one race. There are some other very, very important races where Trump is doing very well and therefore could bring the Republican in. I'm surprised to see that Ted Cruz is in trouble.
Oh, Ted's not. Ted will be fine.
So you think they're just trying to make us? And I don't.
The polls I see here for the Senate race, you're right. I mean, a lot of these have Cruz only up 2-3 points. That's interesting. Trump's going to win it. That's going to help. I think that.
Well, they have to hold on to what they have, and they have to win. They have to win 2 seats. If they really have to win just one if they win the presidency, right? West Virginia is in the bag. Montana looks pretty good, and in Ohio, we are. It's one of the few states where the Republicans have raised more and are outspending the Democrats for Bernie Moreno.
Bernie's looking good. North Carolina mayor, I'm actually no Senate race there. We talked earlier. We thought maybe we'd look better there because of the federal government's failure to respond. I'm now concerned a lot of those areas that were hit are strong Trump areas. And a lot of these folks will be displaced or some one way or another won't be able to vote. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of Trump voters, very few Biden Harris voters in those areas that were impacted. And yes, of course, we're concerned about their safety and well-being, right? We're not thinking of electoral.
No, but I would think think there's enough time.
Okay.
There's enough time to put it back together, and also the motivation will be tremendous.
Okay, you're right. I hope.
Nevada and Arizona are 2 places where there's a 2-to-1 spending deficit.
Who the Democrats have more?
2-to-1 over us, right?
Wow, that's Arizona.
Maybe that's the reason, right?
Well, that's right. We had talked to Caroline, and she shared with us that I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I believe the NRC could be doing more there. But that's what every race says, right?
Mm-hmm.
About the NRC, except for the one race where they put all the money. Sounds like that's Montana.
No, they're putting a lot of money into Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, okay.
And Moreno is raising a lot of his own.
Yeah.
Whereas Jackie Rosen, whose first term are outspending Sam Brown by more than 2-1. In a state where Trump is running very, very, very competitively. And apparently, Rogers has come up quite a bit and made it much more competitive, because it looked for a while like he was going to lose. And now it looks like it's pretty close to even. So we'll have to see. I mean, I think Republicans are going to get control of the Senate. And if Trump wins, for sure. And that's going to be very, very necessary, as you know. Well, we're going to go back and see what the Yankees are doing. And we're also going to keep watching very carefully to see what Israel is going to do, because usually they don't wait this long to get even. So either they're planning something big, or they're taking cowardly Joe's advice, which I doubt. Yeah. I doubt. I mean, Joe is really an ally of Iran, not of Israel. And don't fool yourself about that. Just don't. Try to be realistic. Well, this is a terrible night in order to remember what happened. But if we remember it and we act on it, maybe it can be a motivation to turn this around and get rid of the reign of terror. Listen to me. It's the only way for peace in the Middle East is to get rid of the Ayatollah and that whole religious dictatorship, tyranny, really. These people are tyrants, not just a dictatorship, they're tyrants. Well, God bless them, all of us, huh? Pray for the people of Israel, and pray for the people of Ukraine, and pray for us that we have wisdom and courage and common sense. I know you're looking after us, God. God bless America.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,